Hey everybody, we are covering 5 things I wish I had known about overpowering my next character. We're going to be looking at the best ways to use those early skill points, what are ways to track down powerful aspects that you can get right away, and what additional things can you do with the alts that are absolutely insane. Now, these are set up in such a way that no matter what you want to do in the game, if you want to play Hell Ties, you want to do the campaign, whatever it is, when you start a new character, these are going to help you a ton. Let's jump into the very first one. If you played any Diablo at all, you come into a new character with some skill points to use. So let's go ahead and hit there. We're going to go to the skill tree, go full. When we come up to the top, instead of going and finding a leveling guide and trying to figure out how to place all these, you just want to jump in and start leveling like crazy. What you're going to want to do is come to the basics up here, your main attacks, and give 2 points into any of them. Just pick one. Don't try to do multiples. You don't need it. Hit this, and once the 2 points are spent, either here or one in the chain, then it'll open up your core skills. Just find one of the main core skills that allows you to just pump in points. This is not going to be a final build. This is not deciding your end game at all. Just load into something that has range, like Hammer of the Ancients or Upheaval that has a good clearing, so you can be, especially Upheaval, like shooting outwards and killing a lot of monsters. Load all 5 points into this and then down the chain. That is going to give you tons of great clear and just the ability to keep leveling up very, very fast. Once you have spent the points there, the next thing to do is kind of, if you need it, get some extra defense. The next node for most classes is going to be the defense node or mobility node, whichever one whatever you're rocking. But get something that helps you stay alive. And then from that point on, we are just going to be focusing on over ramping what we already have going. And so then at that point, I'll look for passive that then will really ramp up my main attack. And from there, we can then keep moving. You should be leveling up pretty fast at this point. And then if you want to, you can look into a leveling guide when you have some real points on the board anyway. Okay, so the next one here is so important. Come to your wardrobe, hit pets, and select a pet, confirm look. The pet is going to go around and pick up all the things you don't have to go walk over to get. That means gold, that means mats. It makes a big difference in early game that you're getting as much of that as possible. So instead of running backwards, you are now just clearing forward, and it is a much better time in early leveling. Now, all those extra mats are going to help us actually craft on early game stuff that in a way that makes a ton of difference. When you start your leveling journey, you are eventually going to come upon gear. Once you get a rare or yellow gear, that is the first thing that you can actually temper on. My recommendations for most classes that allow for a double-handed weapon is that you do wait for a rare double-handed before you come do this. But we're going to come in and temper something onto our early thing. And at this point, you should have some at least entry-level recipes to put on it. But I'm just going to come in weapons. I think night and day are usually sitting here. These are great adds. This is a decent amount of extra damage. So if I run here, I get cold, poison, or shadow. If I run this one, it's physical, fire, or lightning. That is going to make a big difference, especially to your double-handed weapon, where this is usually doubled up from your single-handed weapon. The reason on the double-handed it's also nice is you don't have to worry about having the right temper roll on both pieces if you have like a side hand or a focus or a shield or something like that. And you're doing a lot more damage. In early game, damage is king. If you can clear faster, you're leveling faster. So another thing that people take for granted in early game is they kind of play and they wait for the legendary drops to then have the aspects that they're looking for. And that can take quite some time, especially if you know there's something that would make a big difference to the build you're playing. If you want to know the best way and quickest way to get it in-game without having to go look up a guide, you come to your collections here, then we come Codex of Power. When you have the item, it'll show up white at the top. By default, it's going to be showing you things only that work for your current class. That's good. And you can see those. This is only your current class, but this also works with it. So this works for everybody. This works just with your Barbarian. If we come down through all the whites, I have a ton of these right now because I'm later in Endgame. When we get down to the bottom, we'll finally show. You guys should see a lot more of the ones you don't have in this list, but we're going to finally get there. Okay, so these are the ones I don't have. When you come into this list early and maybe only have a few or maybe none at this point, you just look for the ones that have the little dungeon symbol right here. This tells you what exact dungeon to go get it in. So if this is, as you float over, you go, hey, that would help a lot, and I want to go get that aspect on purpose, you just click here. If you also left click on it, it'll automatically mark it. See that little, it says remove pin on map. When you click it, it'll pin it to map, and then we can go out to the map and we can see where it is. So it's up here. There's the dungeon. All we have to do is port here and then walk over, and we are good to go to get that aspect once that is cleared. Now, this one has been floating around for a while, but I want to make sure you know it. I still see people who don't. And it is when you were running aspects early. We found out how to go get them. When you're running early aspects, you want to, wherever you can, put them on your jewelry. Jewelry doesn't make as big of a difference as increase in damage per second or damage or armor as it does in early game. So yes, they can help a little bit, but if you're running an old ring that's like, your item power is 200 level lower than everything else, it's not going to matter nearly as much versus if your weapon is. If your weapon is, it's going to really make your clears extremely hard. So when you start to actually put the aspects on things, put them on your rings and amulets, the ones you really want to keep for a while, because you'll be trading out most of these other things easily and you want that advantage. So we are moving pretty quick, but I did have a bunch of bonuses and I wanted to make sure I get them in. We are going to go over some things that actually are different for the alts. So if you already ran a main and you're running a secondary character, these are going to be huge advantages that turn even your overpowered early game character into a monster. And the first thing here, we'll kind of go in order of when they come online for us in game. The first thing is gems. So when you go and you look at the gem dealer now, this very first one, the grand, if you have enough to basically create that in your end game, then at level 30, you can actually put it on any slot you have for your alt character. This is a huge boost in power. It is insane if you're looking for resistances. If you put a diamond, a full diamond onto your jewelry, it is just nuts. So it is good to kind of get those ready. It might even be worth like pulling them out of, if you don't have the 10 million to roll each one of these, pulling it out of what you already have installed on your main, just so that you can install it here while you're playing your alt. It doesn't mean you have to transfer that out, but it's such a huge amount of power. It's just nuts. Now, an extension of that is going to be that our mythics, if you have any mythics, it just makes your alt nuts. I mean, it is just crazy, crazy powerful in early game as long as they can equip it. And what they've done is it requires level 35. So level 30, you get gems. Level 35, you can start throwing on mythics that are full maxed with the full gems in them and just dominate everything. Now, this may be obvious, but any of the late game runes will also be available to you. So if you have the legendary runes, also another great advantage in early game. Now, this next one is super huge if you have the expansion, or if you're thinking about it, this may be why it's worthwhile. If you start any character as an alt and you've already unlocked the mercenaries, then you can just come down here and actually install your mercenary. So we're going to actually go down there. I'm going to show you just a couple things really quick of abilities you may want right away that will help the most. So my first go-to is going to be Rainier. I actually like him as a reinforcement. So let's go, we'll enlist him. And what I want is I want this right here, Bastion. And then I want it to trigger whenever I think this is good, if I have issues with control and parrying, or I can also do it when I become injured, or I can tie it to one of my skills. I like it here so he can jump in. If I get frozen or something tries to stop me, then he's going to come in and throw a bubble over both of us, and then I can easily get out of trouble. Cuts down my dying a lot. It also allows me to put more points in my skill tree into just straight damage. Okay, we have yet another one for expansion holders. And that is if we come to Kurast and come over to the Kurast Undercity, and you've already unlocked it through the storyline and played through some of these. When we open up this and we actually throw in a tribute, we're going to open up the bargains as well. If we want to pay some extra things, this is the one we're looking for, the Chaotic Uniques. This one allows you to drop uniques for any class. So not just the class you're playing. That allows your main to play this a bunch, add this bonus, and pick up a bunch of unique gear that is ready for your alt as soon as they hit level 60. That gives you a huge jump into endgame, not to mention all of the points you're going to have with Paragon and all kinds of other stuff that come with playing an alt character. Now, if you follow these tips, you're going to be in endgame in no time, and you definitely want to catch this video where I go through my absolute favorite OP endgame tips, volume 3. I'll have all 3 of the links for the videos, 1, 2, and 3 in the description.